Hi, it's Michael Kerr here, presenting Small Business Banter. A healthy micro and small business sector means a successful economy and a more vibrant society. Small Business Banter is about helping regional business owners better prepare for current challenges, but also for the next stage of business success. I'm Michael Kerr, founder of Kerr Capital, advisors to business owners. Each week, I interview a fellow small business owner or an expert, and they share their stories, their lived experiences, the wins and the losses, and their best advice to help you, the listener, get the most you can from your own business. Small Business Banter is brought to you from the studios of 104.7 Gippsland FM and is heard across Australia on the Community Radio Network. And thanks also to Kerr Capital, supporters of the show. So welcome into another edition of Small Business Banter Community Radio and Podcast. I wanted to do something a little bit different from the normal interview-based programs that I've been doing for the last couple of years. I've just come back from a couple of weeks touring and working in Northern Victoria and Western New South Wales. I do a lot of work in regional areas. In fact, in some remote areas as well. And what really resonated with me on this trip, as it has done many times before, but I thought I'd bring it to the fore now. I saw lots of posters advertising a business for sale in a shop window. I often take photos of these and share them around. I always want to see owners successful in their endeavours to sell their businesses. Some of these business for sale posters had QR codes. Some were quite straightforward, quite simple, but they're broken down into two types. Essentially, there were ads by the owner themselves looking to sell their business. And in other cases, it was either a business broker or what I might term a business sale agent. Business brokers broadly will get active, will get involved in the sale of your business. Whereas I differentiate them from business sale agents who largely just promote the business for sale and might help you with a little bit of documentation, but it's basically all care, no responsibility. They'll advertise, you pay them the money, off you go. So, look, largely in both cases, these business for sale ads are underpinned by a strategy, a business sale strategy, if you can call it that, of essentially running an ad and waiting for the phone to ring or for a mythical, magical buyer to walk on through the door. So from a lot of experience over many years, I know that oftentimes these sales never happen and it's challenging and devastating for owners. When they do happen, it can take years. And by that I mean 2, 3, 4 years. So the real lost opportunity there for owners is time. It's when you're ready to sell your business and do other things, it doesn't mean there's a buyer, around the corner. Sometimes they might approach you, but so what can often happen is that an owner feels like they're ready to sell now, and then 2, 3, 4 years goes by, and they might eventually scrap a sale together, or they might not. And the later you get in your life, the more costly that lost time is. So I thought I'd put together this one-off episode to talk about a different option, the do-it-yourself option, which I think is particularly apt for regional and especially remote-based businesses. So I want to do a diagnosis and shine a light on what it means to do a do-it-yourself business sale. So if you're about to start thinking of selling your business, or in fact you're already selling and you're getting nowhere, you're going to hopefully pick up some really helpful tips as I step through 25 minutes or so diagnosing what a do-it-yourself business sale option involves, what are pros and cons, and what are some of the tips that I would give you to, if you were to consider a DIY business sale option, some of the tips that will make it more effective for you. So I want to go back just a little bit to when an owner is decided it's time to sell their business and to retire or go traveling or do something different. So just a couple of sort of backdrop facts. And I think for most owners, the options really boil down to, sure, you can do nothing, but the options really are to appoint a business broker, maybe a real estate agent who's local. I see lots of those ads, as well. Or take up one of these business advertising packages from a business sales specialist. I won't name anybody or any company through this episode, but as I said a little bit earlier, brokers will be a bit more hands-on. Real estate agents probably happy to promote a business, and if it's fortunate to get a business sale, they'll happily take a commission, but are probably less active than brokers and possibly less experienced in raw business sales. The other option of, from using a third party is a do-it-yourself option. Really, there isn't a lot of information out there on championing the idea of a do-it-yourself option and, how you might actually do it. So I do want to pick up and shine a light on what it means to do a do-it-yourself business sale, because, as I said, there's a few things working against the owners of regional and especially remote businesses. If you were to go down the path of a traditional business broking approach, appoint a broker, this is a fairly broad generalisation, but the model for business brokers is a lot about volume. And what I mean by that is the more businesses they have advertised, the more chance that they're going to sell one of those businesses. So it can be, you can fall between the cracks so easily, because the way they earn their money, their success fees, is by selling. And again, broadly, brokers are going to charge somewhere between 5 and 10% of the sale value, but often and usually with a minimum success fee of, I'm going to say $15,000, but it might be 10 or 12, might be $20,000. So when you're talking about a business that might be worth $50,000, $100,000, it's a minimum success fee of 15 out of a $50,000 business sale is a significant proportion. But it's also, the brokers just aren't incented to keep fighting for if they've got a buyer on the hook to get that extra money, because essentially they're going to earn their minimum success fee. Unless the businesses start to be worth in the hundreds and hundreds of thousands, and 6% of $1 million is a lot of money. But when we're talking about businesses worth, $50,000, $100,000, maybe even $200,000, you're going to, absorb a fair chunk of the selling price with that fee. And as I said, the brokers will not have the incentive to keep fighting and negotiating when they're going to get a flat fee. So often what happens is the brokers, when a disgruntled owner rings up and says, look, we're not getting anywhere on this business sale, their advice is usually, reduce the price. And like I've found from a lot of, the work I've been involved in, that it really doesn't necessarily lead to a new run of interest. It's, the value is really secondary in a lot of cases with regional and remote businesses, secondary to the location of the business, and there's only a very small pool of buyers anyway, or you've got to attract someone from a long way away. But just simply dropping the price isn't necessarily going to help an awful lot. So look, I get the idea of doing it yourself can be quite daunting, but I want to talk through now some of what's involved and where it will make sense, and hopefully give you another option to think about if you're about to start selling, or you are indeed already selling and it's not going anywhere. So who might a do-it-yourself business sale option make sense for? I've got here about 9. I just want to go through them, reasonably quickly. The first scenario is you might already know who the buyer is. In fact, they might have contacted you and, just not sure what to do. This does happen. And the DIY option then is a good one because the buyer's already presented themselves. And what you need is not the usual business broking advice to advertise and promote the business. It's what you need is advice on how to negotiate with that particular buyer and, through to the end. So, where you know the buyer already, DIY is a potential option. Sometimes businesses are particularly unique, complex, and difficult for others to understand, or because of that business broking model being a volume game, as I mentioned earlier, it's the brokers may not be incented to really deeply understand the business the way you might. So what it means is you can translate with a bit of guidance how the business works more easily and more quickly and more efficiently than anybody else. Sometimes, and this is the third, scenario. Sometimes you might not want to widely promote and advertise indiscriminately your business to potential buyers. There's good reason to try to keep things a little bit private. So if that's you, that's where you can, in a DIY sense, perhaps take a little bit more control on who and where you advertise the business for sale. The fourth one, the business might just be too small, as I said, for business brokers. The fifth one is your business might already have been on the market with a business broker and you're just not getting anywhere. This happens a lot. I get many calls from owners who have invested in a broker, or they've invested in one of these business sale agents, and it's going nowhere, and they're realizing all of a sudden that their time is getting away from them. Sometimes the sixth one is you might have been trying in the past to sell your own business without any success. So hopefully when I get through to the tips in the second half of this episode, you might pick up something that's helpful. Where the business is located away from metro areas. In metro areas, you have plenty of choice of brokers and business sale advisors, and they can get to you relatively quickly. That's not the case in regional and remote areas. You might, the eighth one is you might not just be comfortable with any of the business brokers you've met. So, businesses are like children for owners in many cases, not always, but so it's okay that if you just don't think there's a competent or someone that you can work with effectively to think about the DIY option. And finally, the traditional business broking model is very much about, at least at the start, to try to max out the price, but there are often other factors at play, and I see them play out in regional and remote areas where business has been in the area for a long time, and the outgoing owner cares about staff or customers, and just won't necessarily sell to anybody for anything. And so they want to work out how to factor in those other non-financial objectives to the sale process, and that's often a bit foreign to business brokers. So what I'll do is now just talk about the pros and cons of a do-it-yourself approach. And for those that have just joined today, I'm doing a special episode of Small Business Banter, basically outlining the case for owners to think about a do-it-yourself business sale option based on recent experience, seeing many of these business for sale ads in windows, but also seeing them over many, many years and talking to owners who have burned a lot of precious time waiting for, assuming that, they'd assumed at the start of a process with a broker or with some advertising firm that the business might sell quickly and for a good price, and they've realised all of a sudden 2, 3, 4 years down the track, they've just burned time, and it can be quite heartbreaking. So what are the pros and cons of do-it-yourself? And none of these are selling. Any business is hard. I do it for a living. They're all hard. But where do-it-yourself is something that is an option for you, some of the advantages can be the following. You can certainly, as I outlined at the start, minimum success fees for businesses can range from $10, $12, $15, $20,000. So where we're talking about a business worth 50, 70, 100, 150, it's a big chunk out of that. So if you were able to get a do-it-yourself business sale away, you'd save that money. In addition to those, the success fee that is the primary source of income for a broker, there are usually some initial fees to get information together. An information memorandum is it's a summary of the business that you need, whether you do it yourself or whether you use a broker. And the upfront fees for those can be, somewhere 2, 3, up to 8, 10, 15,000. The smaller the business, the smaller they're likely to be, but nevertheless, it's going to be in the thousands. And sometimes on top of that, there might be a fee of, $2, $3, $4, $5,000 for an initial valuation. So that work, preparing a valuation, preparing a business summary or an information memorandum, definitely needs to be done. But I'm just under the DIY option. There are ways that you can save some of those fees and or just get a better return for the money that you might spend with some other professional advisors to help you with those. So what is often in the traditional business broking model, the core base of promotion for the business for sale is advertising. What brokers do is there are a large number, 6 to 10 significant business for sale websites, and what they'll do is charge you thousands of dollars to upfront with no guarantee of success. That you can advertise across all these as part of a package. So again, you need to do some advertising, but it needs to be targeted. And what is often the case with these bigger business for sale websites is that they have lots of visitors to the website, but you got to ask the question: would someone? They're very metrocentric. So will someone find your business for sale on one of these big advertising websites? They might. I think there are other ways to be smarter, and I'll come to that at the end. The biggest factor for me as an advantage is that if you do a do-it-yourself business sale, you're really controlling the timeline. Like I think that with any business sale, you need to work it and work it hard. So when you do it yourself, I think you can do a better job of getting prepared and understanding what's in front of you. And I think you're more likely to start off, and I'm saying if you are thinking about selling, think about years as the likely time frame. So it's a real horrible shock for someone to believe a sales pitch that you can get a good price, whatever that is, and the typical selling time frame is 6 to 12 months. The further you are away from metro areas, the more likely it is to run into the years. So even if you don't reduce the time under a DIY sale option, you might well at least understand that a lot better and not be so shocked and be incented to do other things to try to max out the potential for selling the business. The other thing about, even if you do end up with a buyer through a broker or a business sale agent, the lots of sales fall by the wayside because turns out the business isn't that well prepared, and the lawyer's going on holidays and the buyer changes their mind. And, there's a whole lot of things that you can get very excited because you're getting close to a sale, and then you realise, that there's quite a lot of parties involved, and you're just sort of hanging off the side there waiting for these things to fall into place. And, so, controlling the timeline is so critically important. Now, the other advantages really quickly are you're going to get more value and know when to use your professional advisors if you're running the process yourself. You're going to protect sensitive business information better. You've got to take a decision on who you give information to and when. So rather than the traditional business broking model of just sharing lots of information, even if there's a non-disclosure or confidentiality agreement in place, it doesn't mean that people don't abuse the information, or nor that you actually need to give it to them in the first place. So they're and look, I think like a lot of things, when you've got a bit of control yourself, the stress levels can be reduced from at least understanding that you know what's going on in the sale process, and that you're managing it. So stress and time are so critically important. So there are certainly a few pitfalls. It does take time. It does take experience, and you'll be in foreign territory with some of the information that you need to produce, but you can get ad hoc support from your existing accountant or lawyer, so you don't need to necessarily engage a broker or business sale advisors to do some of that stuff. So there will be a lack of understanding of certain things around financial information, but you can work your way through it. I've seen it happen. So let's finish off with what I think for those that consider do-it-yourself as a potential option. Here are 10 tips to make it worthwhile. First is, I'm repeating myself here, but I just want you to understand that the further you are away from a metro centre, the smaller the value of your business, the more likely those traditional business broking approaches won't yield anything. You'll lose time, you'll lose money. So don't feel like using a broker is the only way. And when I say broker, I also refer to real estate agents and business sale agents. Sometimes doing it yourself is the best and only option. So I want you to just keep that in the back of your mind. Tip 2, you've got to produce. Don't ever just ship off your raw tax returns to anybody. What you need to do is put all of your financial history, 4 or 5 years, on one spreadsheet, and so that there's a coordinated and overall picture of the financial health of your business. Accountants will help you with this, but the secret is not just to ship off tax returns, because they don't tell the story. There's so many things in financials that mislead what the underlying performance of the business really is. Tip 3. Prepare a detailed summary that is a look at your business through the eyes of a buyer. Have that on the ready. Once you've done that, prepare a one-page version of it. Call it an executive summary, and this is what you would share with any interested parties in the beginning to work out whether they're fair income or not. Advertising, tip 5, advertising isn't the only option. There's a lot of other ways to let people know your business is for sale. Your family and friends, your accountants, your business connections, your social media profiles, your website competitors, etc. Really work those hard. Think about them. Tip 6, update your professional advisors that you are about to sell. So if there's any urgent tax or legal advice you need to get, you get that sorted. Tip 7, when you're in the negotiation with buyers and the sale process is well underway, to only take calls and deal with things when it suits you, when you're ready. But you do need to engage and make sure that the buyers understand it's a two-way process. You're not just going to give any information to anybody. You've got to put some controls in there. And generally, Buyers that are interested will play by the the rules of engagement you set. Tip 8: follow up buyers regularly. They disappear in and out of interest. Doesn't mean if you do get some on the hook, just keep working them over and over. The sale time frame will take years, so you've got to keep updating that information. That's tip 9. And tip 10 is to use some kind of a memorandum of understanding or a heads of agreement to summarise where you're getting to with potential buyers. Get legal advice on that, but talk is cheap. Emails are messy. You need some kind of document that summarises a deal. So while it's important to get a good and fair price for your business, I just want to see owners not put off retirement, not lose time, and not just default to closing up a business. I've heard plenty of horror stories about owners, paying $5,000, $10,000 for an advertising package that is basically a promise to get a good price, in a 6-month time frame. It generally doesn't happen, and it's really bitter for the owners. So I just wanted to make this DIY option more pronounced, and I want owners thinking about something to give it a bit of an overview and to work out whether it might be the best way for them to actually get a sale done. I've seen it work, and it's definitely an option. So if you wanted to chat to me about that, by all means reach out to Michael Kerr. You can get me at kerrcapital.com.au or via the Small Business Banter podcast. All the best. So that is all for today's episode of Small Business Banter. I continue to be inspired, bringing you small business experts and other small business owners and hearing their stories. If you want to listen to any past episode, jump onto your podcast platform of choice and search Small Business Banter. There you will find a diverse and fascinating collection of small business owners and experts openly discussing and sharing their experiences. For any of the links, resources, or information we've talked about on the show today, or to contact me, please head over to smallbusinessbanter.com, or you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. And it would be great to have you tune in the same time next week for another episode of Small Business Banter.